Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Government Secrets Podcast. My name is Graham Elwood, broadcasting to you live in San Salvador from the Orange Pill Podcast Studios here in El Salvador. We have a fantastic show for you today. It is our 151st episode. I've gotten a haircut since our last journey together. And Melissa, who works on the crew here's mom, made me these two bracelets. These ones I had, but these two are amazing. Look at this one right here. It's got a turtle, which in Spanish is tortuga. And these are two starfish, which are beautiful. And then this one has like an anchor, and it's sort of the color of the orange pill. And then she gave me two others, which I don't have room on my wrists for all of these, but I will be wearing these in subsequent episodes. So muchas gracias, Melissa, and tu madre. There we go. I like these bracelets a lot. These two I got from a Buddhist monk on Times Square. Crazy place to find a Buddhist monk. By my billboard that had been censored. So that was fun. I had a censored billboard and then these two. All right, let's bring them on the show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Government Secrets, episode 151 with the two most censored comedians in America, Lee Camp and Graham Elwood. What's up, buddy?
Graham, we do not have time for the details of your charm bracelet. All right, we just don't. We run a tight ship here. All right, man.
These are gorgeous.
How you doing?
I'm good, buddy. I'm really good. I surfed a lot this weekend. It was amazing, and there's a Bitcoin meetup tomorrow night in San Salvador, and then one Friday night down at the beach in El Zonte, Bitcoin Beach, and they just asked me to speak at the one in El Zonte. So if anyone is going to be in El Zonte this Friday, March 1st, come to the premier Bitcoin meetup, and I'll be talking.
Like half our fans are in El Zonte. It's like number one location for fans of Government Secrets.
Is it an El Salvadorian surf town that uses a Bitcoin circular economy? Yep. That's where they should be, quite honestly, because as America collapses, you're going to want to be outside of America. That's
true. But once you get there, you stop caring about how many Nazis we've allied with.
That's true. Because you catch a lot of really amazing waves and you're just sort of like, you're in a country that's like doing well. And you're just like, well, America had a good run. And then you go eat some pupusas.
Yep. Listen, if I'm on a beach in El Salvador, probably not doing this show. No.
I guess, well, then you should stay in the U.S. because I'm doing the show here in El Salvador. I haven't stopped doing the show, but you just said you're going to just quit if you're on a beach, which that's cool, Lee. I appreciate your honesty, dude.
Yeah, the only thing that keeps me doing this is the fact there's not a beach nearby. That's it. All there is.
So we need to have a Patreon tier. Keep Lee away from the beach. Patreon tier.
Yep.
All right. Are you as excited as I am that Bitcoin's over 61,000 a coin?
I am, man. Oh my God. It's happening.
Do you remember a year ago when it was at 19,000 and I said, buy the dip? And people said, Graham, you're crazy. You remember when I said that? You would have tripled your money. But I'm not. But so all I say to that is then when the Bitcoin's at 100,000, you can be the person that said, yep, I'm glad I bought in at 61.
Graham, we discussed this. You have a whole other podcast for Bitcoin. You're not allowed to bring it onto the show.
I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct. I'm sorry. I'm not allowed. I'm literally in an orange. I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm
whole other podcast that you have for that.
These logos over both of my shoulders are about Bitcoin, so I should not be bringing it up. I'm sorry.
It's kind of like a significant other saying, look, we agreed you can do your drugs, just don't bring them here. But here you are, showing up with all your drugs, with all your pills.
I remember I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and we all, as kids, and my dad and this other family, all had season tickets to Wisconsin Badger football. And in the 70s, the Badgers were a horrible, horrible football team. They were awful. And then in the late 80s, in the mid 80s, they got this coach, Barry Alvarez, and they became really good. Now they're like a powerhouse. And in whatever year it was, 93, 94, they won the Rose Bowl. And my family gets together with these other families in northern Wisconsin every summer. We've been doing it since I was a kid. And so it was August. The Rose Bowl had happened January 1st. And this guy, Steve Myro, was an awesome guy. Him and my dad were longtime friends. He started talking about the Rose Bowl, and his wife in the other room goes, "Steve, we're not talking about the Badger Rose Bowl anymore. It's over. It was 9 months ago. I don't want to hear it anymore." And I feel like that's what you're doing to me with Bitcoin.
I get it. Your thing is good. All right.
I love how you and like Ron and other people just talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old that's really excited about fire trucks. And like a new fire truck happened to come into our neighborhood, and I just won't shut. You're like, I know fire trucks are fun.
Congrats, you bought Google at $5. Okay, can we move on?
I just want all of you guys to share in this anyway. I'll maybe, since your segment is going to be like
look,
a
if you buy 3 pieces of Tupperware, you get 10 free. Okay. I just want you to enjoy in the Tupperware spoils.
And then you sell them to your neighbors. Everybody needs Tupperware. That's all I'm saying. Like, everyone can benefit from this. Think of all the food you'll save in a year from not throwing away. Yes, I'm a Tupperware salesman, but for money. What I was going to say, diverting from the topic that we're not supposed to talk about, that's initials or BTC, is your subject, you have another fantastic multi-part subject that is going to take several episodes to cover.
Yep.
So how about I do mine? Because mine's pretty quick and clean. It's good old bank scandal, from a bank that America propped up after a war that it started. So it's good stuff.
Sounds good. And I'll just be hyping the segment I'll be doing is the first part in multi-part segment on the American love affair with the Nazis. And
we love our Nazis.
We've covered Operation Paperclip before, but there's a lot of this we have not covered. So it's pretty good. And I will say some of it is quite hilarious.
Well, it's honestly like what the show uncovers for both of us and for hopefully our audience is that Operation Paperclip is like the American relationship with Nazis 101. Like, it's just like, it's the entry level of how America has really loved them. And you made a great decision today in our title, you notice it's deliberately misspelled because we were like, we don't want the algorithm to flag us yet again.
Well, that's why I think if I add the Southern accent to it, the Nazis, then they might not know. The algorithm might not know what I'm saying. So
America loves the Nazis, man. We're all
listen,
big
there's
fans.
good Nazis and there's bad Nazis.
Hey, man, long as some of them know how to, play good music and eat food, and they're all right in my book. So I'll do my first segment. There's the segment number 1. The Afghan bank scandal. I just typed in bank scandals. Very long list shows up when you type that into your web browser, as it turns out.
And so this has to do with blankets, right? Afghans?
Sure. Yeah, okay. It's a blanket scandal.
Blanket bank scandal. A blanket scandal. Yeah.
In terms of blanket and just the blanket corruption of the entire banking industry. Like, I read a quote today from Thomas Jefferson that was just like, banks are a scourge against democracy, or something to that effect. I'm like, wow, he got it years ago. So this is The bank was founded in 2004. Of course, we invaded there right after 9/11.
For the second or third time. No.
Yes. This was right when I was there. I was there in August of 2004, my first time in Afghanistan. It claimed that accounts can be opened and maintained in Afghani, US dollars, and the euro. And it was connected through the globe with SWIFT, which enables fund transfers for its customers. The bank has a corresponding relationship with 7 international banks situated in Germany, China, Iran, Tajikistan, and Saudi Arabia, and India. It almost collapsed in 2011 and is considered one of the worst banking scandals in history, according to the Guardian newspaper.
Is this the central bank for all of Afghanistan?
Yeah, this is it. This is like their central bank. So there was the Taliban Bank. Like when I was there several times, you could get
Taliban. I was a big fan of that one.
Taliban.
I had a Taliban membership.
And their ads were hilarious. Just a guy with a sword. Someone would pull out another, like a Citibank card, and the Taliban would just cut their hand off and then go like that. Like, yeah, it was good. It was good ads.
Oh my God. Citiban is like the terrorist rulers of Citibank. Citiban.
Yeah, Citibank. So basically, yeah, that's it. That's the Taliban. Taliban was replaced by the Kabul Bank. The Kabul Bank. In late 2012, according to the Los Angeles Times, independent investigators and journalists uncovered widespread corruption in the Kabul Bank. The New York Times in 2012 headlines indicate audit says Kabul Bank began as Ponzi scheme.
Good.
So it's like,
I mean, when the entire stock market is really a Ponzi scheme, can you blame them?
No.
Like they looked over at the United States. They were like, hey, we'll just do what you did.
Yeah. I mean, and the bankers just went, hey, there's a new country. We can set up a fresh new set of scandals without any of that fussy regulation that always seems to get in the way of our scams.
Yep.
There was following investigation and judicial action. So in 2010, it was disclosed that its chairman, Sherkhan Farnood, and other insiders were spending the bank's, they were given $1 billion for their own, and they were just taking that money and in their lavish lifestyle and lending money under the table to family, relatives, and friends. Now, this coincides with other government secret segments we've done about how the money was just like, just
crazy,
given away in Afghanistan and just
disappeared. And even when it was being given to the people it was supposed to be given to, it was like we would pay one warlord to like burn his opium plants, and then he would just go burn his opponents or whatever, his competition's opium plants. So he'd get paid and he'd now have a monopoly on all the opium of the area. It was just like, it's so insane.
Dude, when I was over there in 2004 and 2006 and 2007, I would hear, mainly, especially in 2004, when America first came in to invade, and we were just like, these warlords were doing that with like airstrikes. These warlords would buddy up with the Americans and say, oh, that's Taliban over there. And it was just their rival warlord. And so they would wipe that guy out. And all right, now I control this area. The whole opium, it was, oh, America. So the bank scandal also involved members of the Afghan President Karzai's family. Now, President Karzai, has he ever been mentioned in any other scandals in that country?
No, most of the puppets we put into power are pretty good by the book fellas. Like, they just want the best for their country as long as it doesn't anger the hand that's up their ass.
Right. So there's good puppets and bad puppets.
Yeah.
Including his brother, Mahmoud Karzai. In September 2010, one of the principal owners of the bank said that depositors had withdrawn $180 million in 2 days and predicted a revolution in the country's financial system unless the Afghan government and the United States moved quickly to stabilize the bank. So just to give you kind of a quick broad strokes here, the United States gives a bunch of taxpayer money to a bank, and then the puppet government just lets him and his family just take hundreds of millions of dollars out, money that's supposed to go in the rebuilding efforts of Afghanistan. So this is why after 20 years and $3.5 trillion, this bank is just one of the pieces of the scandal. So if America wasn't just a completely amoral, vapid, soulless, corrupt entity, we actually would be talking about Afghanistan as like, wow, it's this amazing place now, and there's schools and roads and soccer stadiums, and women have all these rights, and you can now go there like a tourist in the same way you can go to like Ho Chi Minh City, formerly Saigon. Right. That's how we should be talking about. In the same way that like 20 years after World War II, they had the Olympics in Tokyo, a country that we dropped 2 atomic bombs on. But Afghanistan was just a plunder scam from the jump. And now it's worse
plunder, and we want to make sure to keep them weak and in our pocket. And we don't want them building up strength and telling us to go screw ourselves. And we want to be able to steal their resources and put pipelines across their country. And
and get their minerals for cell phones, and also just have this fantastic money pit that the military industrial complex can just benefit from. You know, like Afghanistan becoming even more destabilized to where we have to go invade again. You know, they're drawing up plans for that if they haven't already. You know, they're just like, you know, there's always Afghanistan. We can always start a war back up there again. Like, it's just this never-ending war cycle.
It really is a never-ending war cycle. I mean, so much of the U.S. economy is predicated, centered on endless war in one form or another. Now, of course, we also need endless war in order to maintain our hegemony, and in order to continue to steal resources in our unfettered capitalist shit show swirling the bottom of the toilet. But at the same time, it also is just a great money grab to keep war going.
It's good. And when you have, you know, in this case, it's $1 billion, which is a lot of money, but the overall, like we talked about, it's trillions of dollars. That means so many people are making so much money. When like all of these people are making millions of dollars, each individually, their businesses and their families are making millions of dollars, no one's going to go, hey, this is corrupt. I mean, you know what I mean? If someone was just putting a bag of cash in your front door at once a week with $500,000 on it, and you're like, is this drug money? And they're like, don't ask questions. You're like, okay, you know, like
very rarely do people turn against the system that made them a lot of money or gave them a lot of power. And very rarely do people that are at the top of these systems do that. And when they do, they're assassinated on live television. So,
oh, gee, I'm glad you brought up that word. So they were predicting revolution, and the Afghan and United States government quickly moved to stabilize the bank. In November 2010, reports appeared that Farnood and chief executive, forgive me for mispronouncing this, Kalu Franzi, both had been sacked from duties as early of 2011. Both were effectively under house arrest and could not leave the country. In July of 2011, both were formally arrested and detained in Kabul. The DAB, the Afghan bank, stated in February it would seek to sell the Kabul bank within 3 years once it had been rehabilitated. But both the International Monetary Fund, weird that they're involved in a scandal, and U.S. officials subsequently pressed for a rapid wind down of the institution. A U.S. aid inspector general report estimated that fraudulent loans diverted $850 million to bank insiders.
I like the term stabilize. You know, could I contact our government and say I need to be stabilized?
Oh my God. I could so use some stabilization. I'm
a little wobbly here. If you could just send a few $1 million.
I'm not greedy. I just need a quick little 8-figure stabilization. Just give me some shoes that cost $30 million. Just give me the cash for $30 million, and I'll go buy good like orthopedic shoes
That'll stabilize things up. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe I need a new yoga mat, but it's definitely in the 30 million range for shoes and a yoga mat. By October 2011, more than a year after the government seized control, officials had recovered less than 10% of the nearly billion that went missing. Oh, really? They weren't able to find that? That's weird.
I always love the went missing thing. Here's the thing. Think about all the efforts that we've gone to in our society to stop bank robbers from being able to get away with it, who actually walk in and just say, give me the money. And they usually get away with like a few $1,000s. All that effort. And yet then in other areas of our society, we're like, just send $1 billion over and I'm sure someone will keep track of it. Like,
I mean, you want to sit these bank robbers down and go, guys, the guns and the masks and just become a banker.
Yeah.
You know, just literally like what the Federal Reserve does to somebody like Jamie Dimon, right? Who runs, I think, Chase, whenever.
Chase, yeah, JP Morgan Chase.
He runs Chase. You know, this is a perfectly legal scam. The Federal Reserve will give like Jamie Dimon whatever, 200 million or $1 billion, whatever amount, and they'll charge him 2% interest, and then he'll loan it back to the Federal Reserve at 3% interest, and he makes a percent off of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars.
It takes a lot of work, Graham. He has to lift up those pallets of money himself.
Right.
Put on a back brace and really get down in there. It's a lot of work. So he should make good money for all that hard work he does.
Jamie Dimon is the poster child for manual labor.
Hey, totally. And when he loans it back to DC, he actually has to push tons of pallets of cash down the highway. They won't let him use a vehicle. So he has to push it himself. Takes him weeks.
Oh, yeah. It's just Jamie Dimon on this basically like this just money pallet rickshaw just going.
Just pulling it. You can see him. I've seen him when I'm driving the 95 there. Just, whoa, poor guy. And I'm like, I hope he gets paid well.
God, he really deserves to get paid for the work that he's doing. He's doing really good work. Despite 6 years in operation, there was a panic in 2010 of customers seeking to withdraw their savings. So there was a run on the bank. Nearly $1 billion U.S. taxpayer-funded assistance in the form of Afghan government salaries. So our tax dollars went to do this. Well, actually, the government just prints money to do this. So our taxes are complete theft.
Yeah. I always do, whenever I don't like to not say our tax dollars go to things because then it kind of lets them off the hook. So I'll often, whenever I'm talking about these things, like I'll say like our tax dollars are going to Israel to fund their genocide. Also, not really because of MMT, and we just print out whatever. But in general, our tax dollars are going to Israel to create a genocide.
It makes it worse when you realize that, when you go, wait, so it's bad enough. I thought I was writing a check to the government and then the government was taking that money and sending it to Israel and Ukraine and these corrupt banks in Afghanistan. And now I find out they don't even need my money.
Yeah.
So they're printing their own money and stealing mine.
They increased the monetary supply during COVID by 20% when they sent, what was it, for the equivalent of $4.5 trillion to Wall Street.
And Americans got bailed out? Oh, no, that's right. No, we're still all paying back.
And yet our public schools, they don't have pencils. The kids got to go buy their own pencils.
Yeah, I'm currently paying back my SBA loan, and I know people that are paying back their PPP loans, but the big Wall Street guys, they got theirs forgiven. Oh, great. Good plan. There was a run on the banks. During the panic in September 2010, hundreds of Afghanis, including many civil servants and their families, gathered outside Kabul bank offices in the capital and elsewhere in Afghanistan. Long lines formed. Afghan police beat back the mobs, and the Kabul bank worried that their money would be lost, according to the Washington Post. Panic setting among many depositors, right? And December 27, 2010, a suicide car bomber killed at least 3 Afghanis, including 1 policeman, as he targeted police officers who lined up to withdraw their salaries in front of the Kabul bank in Kandahar.
Wow.
On February 19th, 2011, 38 people, including 13 policemen, were killed during an insurgent raid on a branch of the Kabul bank in Jalalabad, the province capital of Nangarhar. The President Hamid Karzai and a NATO International Security Assistance Force spokesman condemned the attack, blah, 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 blah. The Washington Post said the Kabul bank played a part in crony capitalism that enriches politically connected insiders and dismays the Afghan populace.
I love when people say that because here's the thing, folks. Crony capitalism is called capitalism.
That's what capitalism is. That's capitalism.
And then they go, they enriched insiders. Yeah, that's called capitalism.
That's like page 1 of capitalism. That's what that is. And I love how, too, just the good old Washington Post, the New York Times, kind of doing their jobs, but then just lacing it with this, like, crazy problems over there in Afghanistan. Like,
yeah, no, they're corrupt.
Over there. But what?
That's
right.
We just bomb children over there for money and to increase our power worldwide, but they're corrupt.
And bear in mind, this is 2010. So the financial collapse happened in September of 2008, but it really didn't start to, it took 2 years before it really started to people started to feel it. 2009, 2010, 2011, that's when the bulk, like 29 and 10 and 11 were when the bulk of the 6 million foreclosures happened in this country, in the United States. Well, not here in El Salvador, but in the United States, right? So yeah. We're sitting there, this massive corruption that is just decimating people's lives in the United States, mine being one of them. And they're like,
decimating people's lives?
Pardon?
You were decimating people's lives?
No, I was not decimating people's lives. My life was decimated by the financial collapse.
Gotcha.
But there's some people's lives I'd like to decimate. Is that cool? Should I list those people's out?
As long as you tell the story on the show, as long as we make it a segment.
Mr. Frazzi said in an interview, if people lose trust in the banks, there will be a revolution in the financial system. Oh, gee, you think? Karzai's brother, one of the brothers of the president and a 7% shareholder in the bank, in a telephone interview with the Boston Globe, said America should do something. Yeah, we did. We gave you $1 billion and you stole it. Like,
America should totally send us more money.
I've been stealing money from America for a long time, and why is America not doing anything?
Yeah. So you know what would solve this issue we run into is some money. If you got any, send it this way.
There's no more money for me to steal, so you guys should send some more money. How hard is this? So there's all this stuff that when it was all said and done, they lost nearly $1 billion of U.S. taxpayer-funded foreign assistance to Afghanistan. This resulted in nearly $1 billion in Kabul bank's deposits seemingly vanish into Dubai.
Dude, I'd love to just meet one of these people who's like, yeah, I basically was just like a, poor accountant in the Afghan government. And now he's living in Dubai with like $1 billion. And he's like, it just kind of like showed up one day and I left town.
Yeah. There's all these guys in Dubai that are just like, so how long you been living here? About 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
What kind of business were you in?
I came into some money. I bet heavily on a pig race and yeah.
I did some business with the United States government and it paid off well. That's what they're saying, as they're just on some yacht in Dubai, just like And what do you think of America? Great country. Love it. The greatest country in the world.
Love it. Sometimes they'll just send you $1 billion and you can just walk away whistling. It's the best.
It's that country. It was awesome. Like, the Independent Joint Anti-Corruption Monitoring and Evaluation Committee published this report and declared in a news conference that $5 billion in U.S., including $400 million to the Kabul bank shareholders, were illegally transferred abroad. About 22 people are accused of embezzlement in the case, and their trial started. At 3 hearings, 18 people, including Sherkan Farhood and Khalil Ferozi, appeared before the court to defend themselves. Some $935 million of the bank's assets were transferred abroad through various systems, and $825 million are needed to bail out the bank.
Even stabilize.
Since 2011, the Karzai government has rejected banking oversight and reform efforts by the United States. So you think those guys don't want reforms? Like,
it's weird.
And this is a weird thing to kind of bring. This is sort of in January 20. So nobody got arrested. Nothing really happened. No reforms happened. There was just like a show trial where nothing happened. No, and no money never got returned, and that was that.
Good.
And so, in January 2014, the International Monetary Fund representative Wabil Abdallah, who assisted in the Kabul bank crisis aftermath, was murdered by suicide bombers and gunmen in Kabul, along with some 21 other high-profile attacks that the Taliban said they undertook.
Sounds like a bit of a cover-up. Sounds like doing some cleaning.
And then in 2011, they just created the new Kabul bank. And everything's been great, other than the bank run in 2021 when the Afghanistan fell and citizens panicked and took their money out. Other than that, everything's been great in Kabul. So that's typical of an America being involved in a banking crisis. No one's arrested. Money didn't get returned. And the citizens of that country, in this case, Kabul, got screwed. And the American citizens tangentially got screwed because our tax dollars, even though the government prints, our tax dollars were stolen. And then they printed money to give.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand modern monetary theory, just know that your tax dollars were used for something awful.
And even when we say the word printing, it's not really printed because 98% of money is not printed. So really, they just push a button, boop, and then $1 billion shows up in Afghanistan. It's
printed. It's digitally it's just like an email, just like somebody just goes to a spreadsheet and goes, ding, ding. Yeah. There you go. Which, if anyone at the Federal Reserve is watching,
money, they just have, sometimes in certain jobs they have keyboard overlays for all the shortcut keys. They just have an overlay that says money on it.
Yeah.
They push it. Money.
If anyone at the Federal Reserve is watching this and wants to just send out some, just
stabilization.
Yeah, Lee and this show needs some stabilization. We need to
Absolutely.
And again, probably just at this point, now that I crunch the numbers, just at $400 or $500 million.
$400 or $500 million. Graham will take his in Bitcoin.
To stabilize his internet. Because your face just froze up. So we need at least 400 million to stabilize that. And that's it. That's all. We're not greedy. So just send it our way. We'll be happy.
We'll take it in Bitcoin.
Yes. Right. Oh, God, yes. Absolutely send it to me in Bitcoin. Lee,
all right, let's get to the Natsees, man.
For the record, Lee brought up Bitcoin. I didn't. Okay. All right. Segment number 2. Lee Camp wanting to talk about more American Natsees. Beep, beep.
All right. And I'm getting this multi-part series from this book, The Natsees Next Door, where he goes through all of the U.S. involvement with Nazis. And it is intense. Wow. Big donation. Thank you.
Thank you, Biscuit Maker.
That's awesome.
See, maybe the Federal Reserve is watching us. Just move that decimal point over like 6 more spots and you'll get right to our stabilization number.
Yeah, and you guys will be really excited about the color of that super chat. It's like a rainbow color that you haven't seen before.
It's the coolest color. When you do a 400 million super chat, it's pretty
sweet. If you guys can just pull your $40 million
real quick.
Yeah.
And we'll leave it up. We'll leave it up for like 5 minutes. If you do $40 million, we'll leave your name up for like 5 minutes.
Full 5 minutes. We will answer any question, even if there's a lot of eggplant emojis.
Anything. Yeah. Yep. I will answer any question. If you give this show $40 million, I will answer any question you have.
For $50 million, 2 questions.
2 questions. For $100 million, I'll answer your question shirtless.
I think that should be like 20 million. Let's be honest.
I think wow, that's offensive. Lee Camp is body shaming me. First he's Bitcoin shaming me. Now he's body shaming me.
All right. Our friend Alan Dulles, who comes up a lot in this show. Alan Dulles. If you have your government secrets bingo card, mark out Alan Dulles. You can also mark out Natsees.
Someone's going to yell out bingo any minute now, because if they had Bitcoin, bank scandal, Afghanistan, Nazis, and Alan Dulles, that you just hit bingo.
Yep. And in a couple of minutes, you're going to hear the words CIA. So, all right, this is before. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying, we have to plan a live show somewhere down the road, and we have to print bingo cards and sell them, because this would be the most fun to have at a live show. This would be the most fun to have. Anyway,
it'd be pretty incredible.
I'm going to actually write this down.
Oh my God, Graham's writing something down. This is a big moment, folks.
Here we go.
He actually has a pen. This is the most. By the way, these are the most office supplies we've bought for this show. Is that pen?
And well, this is from a Hilton I stayed at, so that's where I get my paper from.
That's free right there.
Do you see why we need $40 million?
That explains why Graham has a shower curtain on his desk right now. Like it was free. It was at the Hilton.
They didn't need the microwave. I took it.
Alan Dulles. All right, so this is back before he had become head of the CIA. He was just a top spy chief in Switzerland during World War II. And Nazi General Karl Wolff was the one-time right-hand man to SS Chief Heinrich Himmler. Together, they sat, Wolff and Dulles, during World War II, not over yet, sat around a crackling fire in a Zurich apartment and had a pleasant conversation in early 1945. They had a few drinks, and the last shots of World War II would not be fired for another 2 months. General Wolff realized the war was lost, and he wanted protection from the war crimes charges that he saw coming. And Alan Dulles viewed the moderate, quote unquote, Wolff. This is the top right-hand man of Heinrich Himmler. He viewed the moderate Wolff as an ally in confronting the next real threat, Russians.
Oh, boy.
By the way, if you have Russians on your bingo card.
Moderate Nazi is like...
It's like a lukewarm fire that you're sitting in.
Nazi is like it's a sympathetic sex trafficker. It's like Ted Bundy was the moderate serial killer.
It's a sensitive torturer.
Yes. Ted Bundy was the moderate serial killer. He didn't eat his victims like Dahmer did. He was moderate. He just chopped them up and tortured them and then, buried their bodies.
That's very true. Very true.
Very, very moderate.
I mean, if you consider any serial killer in the history of the United States to like what Israel's doing right now, they're moderate.
They're moderate. Yeah.
So Wolff and his motley crew of Nazi underlings offered Dulles the promise of a developing long-term source of intelligence that could be turned against Stalin and the Russians once post-war Germany was formed. In the coming years, Dulles and America's spy agencies would put to work hundreds of former Nazis as spies and operatives in both Europe and the United States as part of the new Cold War ethos. Every German in the Americas, no matter how assimilated, so he's now skipping down to, or I'm skipping down to how Germans in America were treated. Okay, so these are not Nazis; these are just Germans that happen to live in the United States during World War II. Basically, every German, no matter how assimilated, no matter how much they hated Nazi Germany, was suspected of possibly being a fifth column or an attacker inside the United States. You know, we changed all the German names. Few, if any, of the German natives had actual ties to Nazis or Hitler or anything, but FDR was taking no chances. So internally in the United States, we're like, every German is suspect. Externally, with actual Nazis that were like the right-hand people of these fucking lunatics, they're viewed as possible colleagues in post-war spy agencies.
That's the beauty of America. So here's this like second generation German that just runs like a shoe store.
Yeah.
He's a suspect. But the guy who worked with Himmler, whose last name is Wolf, who literally is like, I'm going to be strung up for my war crimes. I know I've committed war crimes.
Yeah.
Do you have a job for me? Yeah, we do. Actually, as it turns out.
Yep. Just, just for just the bureaucracy, just give us a little resume. By the way, I think I actually have something about legit resumes being handed in, but as Hitler's war machine began to stall, the Nazis faded as the dominant threat that they once were, and American officials were already beginning to plot how they could contain their new rival, the Soviets, in Europe, divided among the victors. It wasn't really, in many ways, it wasn't a new rival. The U.S. hated and feared, the capitalists of the U.S. feared the Soviet Union even during World War II, even though they were allying with them. And let's be honest, the Soviet Union won World War II by throwing 27 million people at the problem. But
yes.
So a new mindset began to take shape that, yeah, there were bad Nazis, but there were also kind of the repentant ones whose heart had not really been in the Nazi cause. Perhaps America could tell the good Nazis from the bad Nazis. So that was kind of the theory for a while. By the way, thank you, Bill, for the donation.
Thank you, Bill.
In Switzerland, Dulles was getting regular reports about the Nazis' widespread massacre of Jews and European civilians, but his secret cables back to Washington included remarkably little on the topic. So Dulles is in Switzerland, basically giving very little information on how there's a damn Holocaust going on, even though he knows it's happening. But he's giving a lot of information on how some of the Nazis seem all right, and we can work with them, and they can help us. And
this is from the World War II timeline. So this is late in the war, 44, 45. So this is when the Allies are starting to literally uncover, like find Dachau and Auschwitz and Buchenwald and go, oh my God, we had no idea. At that point, we had heard, we didn't know necessarily.
So they had intelligence on this stuff going on, but they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, I guess. But
right, this is when like actual GIs are uncovering. If you read the book like Band of Brothers, they come across these camps with these people that are starving and the dead bodies. And this is when it's like the reality of how awful the Nazis were is like right up in our faces. There's no denying it anymore. And that's when Alan Dulles is sending back notes going, there's some good apples. They're not all bad apples over here.
Yeah, we can work with a lot of these folks. He was asked specifically about something about what was going on with the Holocaust and the concentration camps. And he said, quote, "I do not see much that can be done in regard to this type of situation." Basically, I can't do anything about that, but we could grab up some of these Nazis.
Wow. God, I mean, this is Alan Dulles. Every time we discuss him in a segment, it's just like, oh no, he's more evil than we thought. Like every time he gets more evil, he gets more awful, more deliberately linked to systemic problems that America has created.
But I think I'm about to get another shocked silence from Graham as we hear a little more about Wolf.
Oh,
General
great.
Wolf was a favorite, he was a favorite of Hitler's. He would often appear at Himmler's side as the two men toured the concentration camps, like Dachau. He, quote, did not find the concentration camps that pleasant, unquote. So he didn't like to be there that much. He said in one interview.
Oh,
however,
really?
he would always, however, you just wait, Graham. He would always make sure to ask the prisoners how they were being treated. And he said, quote, none of them had ever complained. None of them had ever complained to him about their treatment.
Oh,
I wonder why that is. Maybe because they knew you'd shoot them.
Yeah, they've seen their family members getting shot on the spot and just tortured and put into ovens, so that they're going to be like, no, everything's great. Oh,
Wolf had worked with Steel Code Precision to help set up the network of boxcars used to, quote unquote, resettle the Jews. Read, send them to concentration camps. So when he was meeting with Dulles, it says it was a dangerous game for both sides. Wolf and his men faced execution if Hitler were to find out about their treasonous talks. Dulles, meanwhile, risked contravening the unambiguous declaration from FDR, Churchill, and Stalin at Casablanca 2 years earlier that the Allied powers would accept nothing less than unconditional surrender from the Nazis. So Dulles this is kind of being done behind FDR's back. I don't think it's Dulles is doing this. I don't think Dulles is doing it behind the head of the CIA's back. But to prepare for the meeting, this is when we get into some really cool bromance stuff. To prepare for the meeting, the Nazi General Wolf sent along a glowing curriculum, basically a resume, with his credentials, his wartime accomplishments with the Nazis, and even a list of character references that included the Pope.
Can you give me 3 references? And they can't all be Hitler.
Can you imagine? You're a Nazi. You're like, look at all these awesome things I did during the war that we're fighting against you and against the British. But I did awesome, though. I really did great.
This feels like a potential ad for some like online resume company or LegalZoom showing Wolf like getting his resume together to get a new job.
Yeah. The two men greeted each other warmly in the Zurich apartment. The next day, Dulles sent a secret telegram to Washington recapping what he excitedly viewed as a breakthrough meeting with Wolf. Much of the memo was devoted to how impressed he was with the Nazi general. Wolf was handsome and trustworthy too, Dulles added later. He was handsome, Graham. That's what matters when you're thinking of bringing a top Nazi into the fold. Is he a looker? You know?
Yeah, I mean, what if he had jacked up teeth? Then you really want a Nazi with messed up teeth or something like that. But a guy with a firm jawline, good-looking guy, yeah.
This is a direct quote. He was from Dulles. He was good-looking, clean-cut, not the way one pictures the typical SS officer. Dude, total bromance. This is like the next scene is them holding hands and skipping down the beach.
This feels like they're going to make this movie and they're going to hire like Seth Rogen and James Franco to play these guys.
Yeah. So he basically makes the agreement that he'll help, that he'll make sure the Nazis put down their arms in Italy if he gets out of war crimes charges. But Dulles said he never promised to get him out of war crimes charges. However, it seemed that the general, while commanding the Nazi troops in Italy, had managed to acquire some 3 million shares of equity in Italian companies. Whether these shares were looted from Jews, Dulles did not say. In any event, Wolf had asked Dulles what he should do with them. European finance was an area Dulles knew well. He had worked before as a lawyer, and he said, I suggested that if possible, this is a quote, he make available to us a list giving numbers and names where registered security is involved, and meanwhile do what he can to protect certificates from being sent to Germany. Dulles cabled Washington. Dulles would make sure that the Nazi general's financial interests were safe for him. This is the U.S. government making sure a top Nazi is able to keep what he's plundered during the Holocaust, during World War II.
So what this evidence literally states is that Dulles was committing treason.
No, because he was trying to help America do good, Graham. That's what it comes down to.
It's like you really see why JFK went, yeah, we need to scatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it into the wind.
Because they were completely unaccountable to anyone. They basically they could do whatever they wanted, and if they got caught, it wasn't like the president was going to come after the tops of the CIA, and the one who did was shot. So,
and in 1945, this is before the CIA was even created. I mean, this is still when it was OSS. The CIA was created.
OSS. Yeah.
So. This is even before the CIA was in its inception. And by the time Kennedy was in office, the CIA already had so much more power and lack of accountability. Like it had even grown, but this is still pretty severe back in 45.
I think part of the key of their growth was they had a lot of good Nazis working for them.
Okay, good looking, handsome.
Handsome Nazis.
Handsome Nazis.
A few weeks later, when a group of anti-Nazi partisans seized General Wolf at a villa near the Italian-Swiss border, so he got arrested for, big surprise, being a Nazi, Dulles' men dispatched a team to rescue him. Dulles had become the Nazis' protector. So much so that Wolf expressed gratitude to him and wrote, "If after my death my honor is assaulted," the general wrote, "I request Mr. Dulles to rehabilitate my name, publicizing my true, humane intentions."
And for a little financial history lesson for the people watching, this is before Nixon took us off the gold standard. So this was when your taxes actually were funding this. So you were paying taxes in the 1940s and you were funding Dulles making deals with good-looking Nazis.
A military and intelligence coup that proved a capstone in Dulles' ascendant career, this whole period was, helping him land the job of CIA director 8 years later under Eisenhower. Coming just 6 days before the full surrender of Germany, the military impact of this deal with Wolf was minimal. So he made this deal that was very exciting for them with Wolf, and then it ended up not really mattering much. Stalin charged, because it eventually came out about this secret meeting and stuff, and Stalin charged that the secret surrender talks in Italy were a ploy to get the Germans to turn their full aggression to the Russians in the East, which it kind of was. It was Germany should surrender and help us fight the Russians. FDR denied it completely and said that the meeting never took place. Wolf was later held in an Allied POW camp along with other senior Nazis. Even in custody, however, it was clear that Wolf had achieved a special place of favor. Technically a prisoner of war, he was allowed to continue wearing his German uniform and carrying a gun, and he even went yachting with his family one weekend at a lake in Austria. Boy, does that sound like someone else's prison sentence I remember? A Mr. Epstein?
I think it was Epstein, yeah. Got to come in and go when he felt like it. And again, I should state for the record, Lee Camp brought up Epstein. I did not.
I should say for the record, the first Bitcoin reference came from you.
Yes, it did. But I did not bring up Epstein. You have brought this up. Someone is currently yelling out bingo.
Someone just has one bingo card that just says Epstein across it.
That just Epstein.
Dulles was already working the Nuremberg prosecutors to see that his ally would not face charges. So he was working hard to get Wolf off. One of the SS men, Eugene Dolman, not only escaped prosecution, but hooked on with the CIA, peddling Soviet intelligence of dubious value. And with little explanation, Wolf himself soon disappeared from the list of major war criminals at Nuremberg. Improbably, the top SS man became a mere quote-unquote witness to Nazi atrocities. So basically, the top Nazis that the CIA was helping all of a sudden became listed as witnesses in the trial rather than the top criminals, top war criminals. His continued, let's see, is this Wolf again, I think? His continued confinement as a POW was worse than any. He claimed that his continued confinement. So Wolf spent several years as a POW. He claimed his treatment was worse than anything the Jews ever faced under Hitler.
Oh my God. What? All right, is there more?
I was wondering what the over-under on shocked silences from Graham during this one was going to be. He said, quote, "A Jew is killed in the gas chamber in a few seconds without having any idea what's going on. My comrades and I have been allowed to die once every night for 21 months. This is much more inhumane than the extermination of the Jews," unquote.
That level of insanity, I haven't heard anything that insane since the last 4 months out of Israel.
Yeah.
Like, that's a mental illness. Like, that guy is that's someone who's criminally insane or something. Like,
and the CIA looked at him and said, "I think we can work with this guy.
This guy knows. This guy's. We're on the same page here with this Wolf guy."
Do you see his jawline? It's quite attractive. Quite attractive. Check. His eyelashes are definitely deserve a decrease of his charges against him, I believe.
His eyelashes. Guy doesn't use a lick of mascara. Just a beautiful man. Just a gorgeous man.
Just a gorgeous man. Ultimately, Wolf was convicted by a British court in 1949 as a minor offender. This is the right-hand man of Himmler. Minor offender, the equivalent of a traffic ticket, usually reserved for Nazi privates. He was promptly released. His 4 years already spent in custody as a POW, yacht trips and all, was enough, apparently. That was the entirety of the punishment. He resumed a lucrative career in a German advertising firm and collected a German military pension for his service in the SS.
This was just popped into my mind. So every year Hollywood makes a new World War II movie, and they've been doing this for 60 years now, 70 years we're still in the year 2024. There's a new movie coming out about the Allies did something great and fought the Nazis.
Yep.
I would like to start making World War II movies that show this stuff. Show this guy getting a sweet pension and is like, this is unfair. And he literally quoting him directly in the movie and doing a dramatization of this.
He could be played by Chris Hemsworth.
Right.
Yeah. Got to be attractive.
He's got to be attractive. Got to be a good looking dude. And show and have people go, wait, what? And go, yep, this is a true story. And just start showing how awful America really has been. I want to start making movies like this.
We would just put your shocked silence face at the beginning and the end. Just
this segment from this episode is like, we show clips of this in the beginning. Like, this is how this movie was born. And it's just me going, what?
Are you ready? I'm excited to see the response this gets from you. After he was out, he even sent the Americans an itemized bill for $50,000 in lost time, clothing, property, and legal expenses. That's the face. That's the one.
The ball. I don't even. How do you? The ball's up in this guy. And please tell me America paid it.
It doesn't say we paid it. I don't think we paid it. But $50,000 back then was roughly $9 billion today. So
I think I'm going to send America a bill.
For the trauma that the American empire has put me through as I cover these stories.
I honestly think we should like sue the United States government or send them a bill or an invoice. I don't know what. Like, I just want to say, you guys owe us money.
Yep. He even threw in clothing. He was like, look, I had to dress up for these court appearances.
And let I remind you that this was way worse than being put in an oven.
Way worse.
Good Lord.
American military officials had their sights set on even bigger targets for recruitment. The Nazi scientists and engineers responsible for building Hitler's war machine. Now we get into Operation Paperclip. How about I do a few more minutes? And I'm not always going to be able to wrap these up exactly like per topic, but we'll see. General Patton, Old Blood and Guts, that was his nickname, was among the scientists' biggest admirers. Patton showed an odd, almost perverse fondness of the German POWs in U.S. custody, even as he was castigating the Jewish survivors as subhuman. He called them, quote, locusts. Patton was meanwhile, he's hiring Nazis as camp administrators and allowing them to keep their posts in the civilian government.
You know, that was left out of the George C. Scott movie from the 70s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wait, but didn't Tom Hanks play Patton and they included all that somewhere, I think?
Yeah. Tom Hanks played him.
Dude, Tom Hanks has never met a World War II film he didn't love.
He's played all of them.
That glorifies the United States in every possible way. So he loves these Nazis in prison. General Patton, he goes to the POW barracks. A German general. He was looking for a German general and scientist named Walter Dornberger, a leading German rocketeer. Dornberger had run the Nazis' V-2 missile program and overseen the work of building Hitler's missiles that had been used to just destroy Europe. He walked up to the guy as he was in a POW camp when he found him. And Patton said, my congratulations. I could never have done it. So they credited Hitler's scientists, and they were determined to claim the Nazi brain trust for themselves, themselves being the United States. For both Washington and Moscow, Hitler's scientists had become spoils of war. So Moscow, to some degree, was also recruiting them, but I don't think they did nearly. I don't think their recruitment practices were nearly as good as ours.
Yeah. And they had a little more of a bitter taste in their mouth with the Nazis because they lost 20-some million people, many of them civilians.
Yeah. The secret program began almost immediately after the war, our secret program, and it would ultimately bring more than 1,600 German scientists to America. 1,600 Nazis and that's just the scientist arena. That's not talking about spies and stuff. In September 1946, President Truman gave the War Department the formal go-ahead to bring a limited group of Germany's top scientists back to America and put what they knew to use. The operation would have to be kept secret. Their Nazi records and their American ambitions were now neatly joined as one. Hence the name Paperclip. These people would have a file on what they were going to do for the American government and a file on what kind of Nazis they used to be. And they'd paperclip them together. So military officials drew up a list of 24,000 German candidates from which to choose. These were not just the rocket scientists. These were doctors and biologists, engineers, metallurgists, even a nutritionist, a printing press man. So they've got a massive list of Nazis they want to bring over here. And it also makes the point that not all of them were even great scientists. Some of them, their technical skills were only mediocre. A military officer wrote of 2 rocket engineers that were assigned to an Ohio base. So we're not even bringing good Nazis. One Dr. Conrad Schaefer was sent back to Germany after he was brought here, not because of his Nazi ties, which were no problem at all, but because he, quote, displayed very little scientific acumen.
So we're bringing over the dumb ones too.
So they have no problem with the fact that this guy was a Nazi. This guy fought against America. This guy was part and parcel to the Holocaust. That's all fine. But you just better get your shit done when you get here.
Yeah, this guy's math is enough to snuff. I mean, sure, yeah, he was part of a Nazi war machine and a genocide, but.
So right here, question: Do we do 10 extra minutes instead of the Patreon, or do we head over to Patreon?
Why don't we head over to Patreon and do a bonus segment? Because I feel like we need to use as many episodes as possible to cover this subject because it's
because I'm enjoying watching your faces respond.
Well, there's that. Just watching, is my head going to just explode, or I'm just going to seize up, or is this maybe some of the most significant stuff that we could ever cover on the show in terms of the history of how awful America is?
Yeah. So we got a lot more to come. So for those of you who enjoyed this Nazi segment, there'll be more coming until we get demonetized and banned.
Well, buckle up, kids. It's going to be a fantastic March.
A goose step march, if you will.
We're going to goose step into March, guys. We're just going to have a good old goose step in March. So yeah, that's episode 151. Lee makes me seize up again.
And we're headed over to Patreon, folks, for an extra segment. If you become a member over there at any level, you immediately open all the extra segments, which is like 55 now. So, you know, if you're a big fan and you enjoyed it and you want to support the show, do it. Join up.
Also, another way to support the show, we are now on the Fountain app, which is an app where you can support a show by donating Bitcoin. Bitcoin sats, little Satoshis. You can tip the show as little as like 50 cents or $1 worth of Bitcoin, or less than that, I think.
Or 12 Bitcoin.
Yes. So if you're the U.S. State Department, we want you to give us 10,000 Bitcoin. But yeah, it's just the Fountain app, and just look up Government Secrets, and you can listen to past episodes, the Audible side of it, and you can tip our show in Bitcoin, which is a really cool way to support what we're doing. So check that out, and then go to GrahamElwood.com. And Lee, where can they find you?
I'm at leecamp.com, and I live stream 4 days a week, 5 including this, at youtube.com/momentofclarity or rumble.com/leecamp.
Yep. Go to youtube.com/GrahamElwood. I'm guest hosting the Orange Pill podcast for the next couple of months. Check that out. And we will see you over at Patreon. This has been Government Secrets, episode 151. Afghan bank scandal, and America loves a good-looking Nazi.
See you in a minute.
All right, guys. We'll see you over at Patreon.